Welcome to Beyond Sunday, a podcast from Schweitzer Church. I'm your host, Jason Leininger, and in studio today we have the revered, the Reverend Sheila Pippin.
Hello, hello. Good to see you.
And we love that wave. Reminds us of Miss Congeniality coming right at you.
Cup tan instead.
Okay.
Cup tan, right?
For those of you, if you didn't know, you can always watch these Beyond Sundays on YouTube. You can watch them there, and so you see video and audio together. But we're happy to have you, however you're joining us. Glad you're here. Well, today with Sheila, we're going to talk about a class that she's in the midst of leading right now. It's called Having the Last Word. So why don't you share with us what Having the Last Word is all about?
All right. Well, having the last word as a kid meant that I won the argument, right? But in this case, having the last word is all about planning your own celebration of life, having the last word about your wishes in this earthly life.
Having the last word in this earthly life, I mean, you're really thinking about celebration of life, right? And that whole experience, whether you call it a funeral, memorial, whatever. And how does the class that you're leading, how does that help people frame that up? Or,
you know, we all think about the final days on earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
We think about what we're going to do with that. But I remember specifically for my parents, and my dear mom is still with us on this earth, but for them to think about their final arrangements meant that they were going to pass someday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reality is we're all going to go.
Yes.
And so wouldn't it be nice to have the final word in how we're going to go? I think that's a great thought. So what we do in these classes is we talk about all of these interesting arrangements that need to be decided upon. We talk about the cost with it. We talk about the music behind it. We talk about, do you want a service or do you want a celebration of life or do you want a big party? We talk about everything that has to do with this.
So do you have an outline, things that, where people can fill out things for answers to these questions? Or
we do. We provide a notebook for the class, and it has plenty of space to write their questions and their decisions on that. The first class is actually mostly run by one of the area funeral homes. We bring in I call him the expert. He's great at it. And Clint comes in and answers all sorts of questions about details in planning your service. Has to do with costs and caskets or cremation or embalming, has to do with costs of locations, obituaries. It even costs to put an obituary in a newspaper. It's kind of crazy, all the things we have to pay for, flowers, all of those decisions. But he answers so many questions in our first session.
What are some of the most typical questions that people have?
Big questions. Spiritually, a lot of people ask about, is it okay to be cremated? And it's kind of an interesting question. I think different denominations look at that different ways, but I don't usually go there. I'm thinking, scripturally, these people are thinking, I don't want to mess up this body because when Christ comes again, he's going to take it with him. Well, that's not the body we're going to have. And so I'm always interested in helping them discern all of that so that they can understand it's not a spiritual decision necessarily to be cremated or embalmed. It's good to know that they're okay either way. It's really a personal preference for them.
You ever take them to the book of Daniel and talk about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego?
We have done that. Yes, we have done that. And that's kind of a giggle in the class too. Mm-hmm. But you think about different ways that people perish, and sometimes it's a tragic death. And that does end up with the question of, what if you do die in a house fire or in the pit like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? That's not the earthly body that we're going to have in heaven. And so I'm good with that, and we talk about that quite a bit.
Well, the early church did have a number of questions around that, and they said there is a preferential way, but then they're like, but again, like you're describing, there's all kinds of ways in which people perish.
You just don't know.
And they especially were thinking about the martyrs and saying, you know what, there's a lot of people who don't have any choice about those kinds of things. And
That's right. Well, people who die in wartime.
That's right.
Sometimes you don't even get to recover the physical body.
Yeah.
So we count on the spirit. That's what we're looking for.
But the Lord has a way of reconstituting everyone.
Absolutely.
That's like Jonah. Jonah could have come out. He was going to come out of that fish one way or another.
One way or another. That's right. Okay, we won't go there right now. Moving on.
No.
Okay.
That's too macabre, and I'm guessing that there's all kinds of macabre opportunities within this.
There would be in
class,
this
yeah.
class. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this class is also paired with another class that you lead called the Binder for Life.
Right.
And what's the distinction between those two classes?
Okay. Well, these two classes both are offered by the Schweitzer Foundation, first of all. I just helped teach the one on having the last word along with Pastor Jim Mason. The Binder for Life is a class that dwells in particular on getting all of your affairs in order, getting all of your important papers, documents, passwords, financial affairs in order, talks about wills and estates and trusts and all those things that legally could keep your family from being able to celebrate your life healthily. Is that even a word? In
Yeah.
a healthy manner. How's that?
Yeah.
It's more about documentation. It's more about preparing for final wishes and things like that, getting things in order.
That actually sounds pretty important to people that have just had kids. If they've just had a baby, they probably ought to be writing all those things down.
They should. Technically, we should be doing that even before we have kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone should have a living will
Yeah.
talking about, what are your wishes at the end of life and when you're incapacitated. Everyone should have a trust, even if you're not a wealthy person. All of those things need to be in order in order to avoid probate. It's one of those things. And that's more of a practical class, the Binder for Life.
Sure.
It doesn't necessarily have a lot of spiritual impact, but if you think about the way you leave things in order for your family, I can't tell you how much they would appreciate that. And that's a wonderful thing.
Well, one of the most, I think, spiritual things that we can do is, and this is where you come back to the Christian tradition, is talk about a life of intentionality and that sense of the saints often had rules of life where they were intentional about how they were structuring their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so having a binder for life or having the last word and taking that special intentionality for that is like just reflecting a broader sense of like
Absolutely.
our lives have purpose, they have meaning, and we want to be people of purpose and meaning throughout the course of our living and our
Right.
dying.
Right.
So these two classes, couple that you lead, you're leading both of them presently. When will you lead them in the future if somebody wants to participate?
Well, thanks for asking that. We will actually offer both of these classes every spring and every fall. Our plan is to do that for all eternity, right? I don't know, however long that is. But that will happen every spring and fall. So I encourage folks to watch the website, listen to the announcements, call into the church office and find out when we're offering those again.
And there is a little bit of limited enrollment if
Yes.
people want to participate.
Right. We try to keep those classes to about 10 to 12 people at the most. It's just a lot of material to cover, and we really like the personal approach to that. We don't like a big lecture hall. We want to make this a personal experience for everyone.
Yeah. And so if you're interested in the future and if you haven't been able to sign up, watch for those upcoming events, or they can always get in touch with you.
They can always contact me at spippen@schweitzer.church, or they can call me here at the church office, and I will get back to them.
There you will, indeed. Thank you. Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in today. Sheila, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we always look forward to seeing you on Sunday and beyond. Have a great day. Bye-bye.